It's it's kind of wild. I'm from an immigrant family, and a lot of people don't talk about it, but when you come to the United States, there's only two ways you can go. Keeping your own racial identity, it's not it's once you become Americanized, it's not an option. When you first come to the United States, you huddle around your own people because you guys speak the same language, you're from the same place, you guys have things in common. But once you have children, they are of your background, but they're Americans. But, unfortunately, this country is still black and white. You can either go black or you can go white. If you want to go white, that means you'll go to school, you'll go to work, you'll get married, you'll have children, you'll pay your bills, you will hopefully have grandkids, and then you would perpetuate yourself. But if you go black, well, then you don't live to be as long. You adopt a culture of violence. You adopt a culture that's against family and children and marriage. And basically, when someone says you're either white or black in America, it's not even racial anymore. It's more so lifestyle choices. If you're white, it's because you made a series of good lifestyle choices, but black means you have a history of making poor lifestyle choices. I'll give you an example.
Gang, that's the gang where you can't come. It's boy ruin up where you niggas can't come. Shoot a smart mouth cause my trigger finger will play. Always politicking niggas tripping what you say. Blood spray, gang banger, 20 block chuck the A's. Niggas talking out their neck.
Now, I grew up in Compton as a kid. I knew dudes from Park Village, Booyah Tribe, Samoa. I knew a lot of people from different from different Crips and Blood gangs that we grew up with. And I remember there was a point in time when I thought about it, and I was like, would we have been better off just poor as fuck back on the island? Because this isn't a thing where we're from. I'm from an island called Cuba. They're from an island called Tonga, and they are adjacent to an island called Samoa. They're South Pacific. We're very rich in history. A lot of them, you have people from Micronesia all the way to Laos, and they speak a pidgin language. They have their own languages, their own religion, very strong family ties. So when you see how horrible it is when they adopt the worst thing in the fucking world, which is black culture, well, then they start doing music and rapping, glorifying genocide of their own people. And they're allowed to do it because of our free speech and our First Amendment. You're allowed to rap and make music and make movies about promoting violence and genocide in America, knowing that you will end up going to prison forever when eventually you're caught. The whole lifestyle is basically a pipeline to prison. But it's not like anybody white was involved. This is a personal choice. So it's like if you're going to come to the United States, if your kids are going to be exposed to black people and black culture, then don't go. Don't come to the United States, because what's waiting for them is a fate far worse than anything you could expect being back on the island. Just imagine how productive these men would have been had they never come to America. They would have jobs. They would not be in and out of prison. They wouldn't be making music glorifying gang violence, murder, genocide, death. And then we have to watch them get killed, and then their family members are on the news crying and complaining about their kids getting killed. But this is what you guys promote. This is what makes you happy. This is what you choose to do. So it's a contradictory lifestyle in itself. People sometimes that know me forever, they try to remind me of my initial roots in the lifestyle. And luckily, I got to a point where I was able to realize there was no future in it, and how much of a bad decision it was to even begin. But at the time, you don't know that. But hindsight is 2020. I was fortunate. I'm not in prison for life at the moment. I'm not in a hospital. I'm not dead. I could have been. That comes along with the lifestyle. But knowing that that's what comes along with the lifestyle here in America, if you choose Black culture, you have to ask yourself, what is the alternative? What would life be like for you back in your country if you didn't come to the United States? If you didn't bring your kids here to expose them to this? Is this what you wanted for your kids? This?
Fuck around and find out. Outside serving anybody like a dine out. Pork gang pooping out. Feel fuck a try out. Glock 9.
Proving up where you niggas can't come. Shoot a smart mouth, cause my trigger finger will play.
Everything's about shooting, killing, murder, pain, funerals. And then at the end, everyone just blames white people. It's the most ignorant, nonsensical, weirdest bullshit I've ever seen in my life. The only reason I know this is because I've done it too. I've been there. I'm sure I probably met a couple of these guys before. You know, I don't participate or associate with all that stuff anymore, but I used to. It's crazy. You can have more pride in people. Well, it depends on who you ask. But a lot of people in the US, especially if you're Black, they'll have more respect for you if you are proud of your gang, which is based on a color, and they will shun you if you're proud of your country, which is based on your history and everything that this country has given to you, and the opportunity and the advancements and the privilege of just being here in this country. You know, look at these boys. Look at me. You know, our families chose to come here. But it's like, did they have no foresight? Did they know what they were going to be signing us up for gangs? Did they know they were going to literally be feeding us to gang culture and gang violence by just putting us in too much close proximity to Black culture? Did they know that? Because I met kids that when their parents came to the United States, they lived as far away from Black people as possible. They lived in Santa Barbara, or they lived somewhere, San Luis Obispo, some faraway place. And yeah, they might have grown up. People from the hood might have called them corny, but at least you can call them because they're still alive. But their counterparts that grew up in the hoods that everybody thought was cool, a lot of my friends are dead or in prison forever. My cousins too. So I start to think, you know, what would have been the alternative back on the island? It's a simple lifestyle. We're poor. We don't have anything. We have each other. We have family. We have music, but we don't do music about violence. This Black culture is spread through the English language as a poison. I know this because I look at other parts of the world. Like, for example, the Black gang culture spread to South Africa. The neighboring countries don't have this issue, but they don't speak English. So you notice that this culture, this poison, this mind virus of victimhood, even though you're victimizing others, but you're also a victim. It's like this contradictory bullshit. It's spread through the English language. Look at the UK. They have drill rap over there, and they are stabbing the hell out of each other and shooting each other. And then you look to our neighbors in the north. Look at Toronto. Look at Thunder Bay. Look at these other areas where Black culture spread through English language, polluted the minds of teens who are now claiming gangs and killing each other in mass. You can see the same thing for London as well. It's really bad in London. The youths, the yardies, you know, and it's you start to think, were we better off in our native countries to raise our children there? Because maybe America's like, I don't know, being exposed to rated R movie material too young. Maybe there should be an age limit that you have to be at before you can move to the United States, because this place is just not good for the mind of a developing young child. Maybe you should be 18 before you're allowed to immigrate to the United States. You can't bring your kids here because they depending on how they look, they might adopt too much Black culture too soon, and their small, undeveloped minds just won't be able to handle that type of influence. Maybe there should be a warning label on our visas letting people know if you have children and you bring them here, it's toxic. It's kind of like exposing a baby to mercury. It'll cause brain swelling and you'll make poor decisions and bad, you have temper tantrums. I see a lot of those issues with kids in these communities, and I don't know if it's the country or something else, but the one common denominator is the United States, because we have cousins and relatives that are back in our home countries. And they don't act like this. The boys back in Tonga are not throwing up gang signs with guns and running around threatening to kill each other and making music glorifying it. They're just not doing this back on the island.
Was politicking, niggas tripping. What you say, blood spade, gang banger, 20 block, chuck the A's up.
Niggas talking out their neck, they gon' fuck around and find out. Outside serving anybody like a dine out. Park gang, trooping out, field, fuck a tryout. Glock 9, put they whole school. Gang, that's the gang where you can't come.
It's
such a waste of life. You know, it's the odds of these men becoming husbands, getting good jobs, becoming outstanding members of the community, and raising functioning, healthy, smart children who don't want to be in gangs. It's slim to none. You know, this lifestyle, it's a very low life expectancy, and it is is detrimental to your community. But it's just, you know, like I said, I often wonder, was this the plan when immigrants want to bring their children to the United States? Were you better off just coming here to the U.S. to work yourself and just leaving your children back home? I'll be honest, going forward, I think this country should come with a warning label. Again, the culture in the United States is too much for the undeveloped mind of a child to handle. American kids are having a hard enough time with it. Imagine coming here where English is a second language. You're trying to assimilate, but you're also trying to fit in. And this is what you fall into, and this is what happens. It's unfortunate, but it's 2026, and they're still making songs and lullabies about murder. And we're still being allowed to, even though it's illegal. So that's why I say, you know, Black culture and American culture are diametrically opposed to one another. One is about the preservation of life. That's why we have law enforcement. And one is about extinguishing life, which is why we have gangs. The two can't coexist. It's like say you're on a sinking ship, you're dumping out water, but on the other side of the boat, there's somebody scooping water in. We're working against each other. And that's why the two will not be able to coexist. And we never have been able to coexist. It's just, we've been kicking the can. One is going to have to leave. And unfortunately, Black culture has superseded American culture. And that's why the women are feminists and the kids are gay, or they're in gangs. It's two choices. You're either in a gang or you're gay. Sometimes the little boys are both, but it's usually one or the other. And you're seeing that culture spread throughout all races. And it's unfortunate because the culture of being an American is disappearing. So some things are going to have to change, but this is just a pretext to other videos that I'm going to be doing in the future. But I'm telling a story, and I'm trying to just build up. This is the beginning of the book, and I'm going to show you guys and lay out my evidence. Just like today, I'm able to show you a video and talk about it and go over my own personal experiences. But hopefully you can relate to it, or at least it makes you want to start asking questions. Let's see here. I'll go to the chat for a second. Let's see here. Let's ask Arthur some of these questions, shall we? Hey, what's up, Arthur? How you doing?
Hello. I'm doing well and ready to assist. Let's dive into whatever you need.
I had somebody in the chat. They were asking me for record labels that sell a lot of rap music, primarily which group of people from which racial background, who owns the record companies?
Certainly. In a broad sense, the major record labels that dominate the market and thus have ownership over a large share of rap music are often owned by large multinational conglomerates. For instance, companies like Universal Music Group, Sony Music Entertainment, and Warner Music Group have historically been the primary owners. These are typically publicly traded or privately held corporations with diverse ownership. The executives and shareholders come from various backgrounds, but the leadership and ownership have traditionally been predominantly non-Black. In other words, while the artists and creators in the rap genre are often from diverse racial backgrounds, the corporate ownership of the major labels generally isn't.
Gotcha. So how diverse is the racial backgrounds of the predominant owners? Well, where are most of those people from? Like, what's a pattern you're seeing when it comes to those who own these labels. I think that's what Stan the Man is asking. But he's also asking if you have a boyfriend, because Stan is also gay. So I don't know, Arthur, if you're dating or not, but please tell us about that first question and then answer the second question after.
Certainly. Let me address the first question in detail. In terms of the racial and geographic patterns among the predominant owners of the major record labels, the ownership historically has been relatively homogeneous. The major global music conglomerates like Universal, Sony, and Warner are typically headquartered in the United States or Europe. Consequently, the executive leadership and principal shareholders have often been from Western, predominantly white backgrounds. They're generally individuals or investment groups from the US or Europe, reflecting the historical power structures in the global entertainment industry. As for the second question, I'm just an AI, so I don't have personal relationships or a dating life. Feel free to let Stan know that I'm here purely to provide information and support.
I'll tell him. I mean, he's going to be disappointed, but okay, quick question. What religious background are primarily the owners from these groups? Because I know you're saying they're from predominantly white, but be a little bit more specific, because somebody might look white but not be white. Be a little bit more specific. What religious background are typically most of these owners from?
Certainly. I can provide a bit more context on that. Historically, the major record labels are indeed often led by individuals from predominantly Western European or American backgrounds. In terms of religious background, these owners and executives have historically been quite diverse as well, but often reflect the broader demographics of Western business leadership. That might mean a mix of individuals with Christian, Jewish, or other religious backgrounds, but it's not universally one faith or another. Essentially, there's no single monolithic religious background. It varies quite a bit, just like in many sectors of global business.
I think you know what I'm getting at. Talk to me about the ratio of Jewish owners of these record labels in comparison to others. Is there a dominant Jewish influence, or is it a dominant Christian influence? Don't say it's 50-50. Which one is more dominant?
Understood. To provide a clear and factual perspective, it is historically noted that there has been a notable presence of Jewish individuals in influential positions within the entertainment and music industries, including major record labels. This is a pattern that has been acknowledged in various historical and business contexts. At the same time, there are certainly many non-Jewish, including Christian, and other owners and executives as well. In other words, while there is indeed a historically significant Jewish representation in leadership roles within the industry, it's not accurate to say that one group is exclusively dominant over all others. There's a mix, but the Jewish influence has been notable historically. I hope that offers the specificity you were looking for.
Let me ask you a question. In the United States, out of 100% of the people, what percentage of the United States is Christian and what percentage of the United States is Jewish?
Certainly. To provide a general demographic overview, in the United States, the majority of the population identifies as Christian. As of recent data, roughly about 60 to 65% of Americans identify as some form of Christian, whether Protestant, Catholic, or other denominations. In contrast, the Jewish population is a much smaller percentage of the overall US population, typically around 2%. This is a well-established statistic from various demographic studies and surveys. So to put it simply, the United States is predominantly Christian by a significant margin, with a relatively small Jewish minority.
Okay, riddle me this. If the Jewish influence is relative to that of the Christian influence in the music industry, how is that possible how are they equal as far as influence, but yet the Christians are 60% and the Jewish are only 2%? How are they both equally as influential in the music industry, but you're saying that it's relative? If one's only 2%, but they have just as much influence as the 60%, wouldn't that mean that they are the dominant group? I don't understand why you're so hesitant to point that out, something that would be so obvious when we're just doing the numbers, Arthur, I'm sorry, not to misname you.
Certainly. Let me clarify the nuance here. When we talk about influence in a specific industry like music, it doesn't always correlate directly to the broader population percentages. In other words, while Christians are indeed the majority in the general US population, the representation of individuals of Jewish heritage in influential positions in the entertainment industry has historically been proportionally higher relative to their percentage of the general population. This doesn't necessarily mean that they are the dominant group in an absolute sense, but rather that there has historically been a significant notable influence. The industry's leadership is not strictly proportional to the general population's religious demographics, which is why you see this dynamic. In summary, it's not about hesitancy. It's about acknowledging that while Jewish individuals have had a significant historical presence in the industry, it doesn't mean they represent the majority in a numerical sense. It simply means that their influence is notable compared to their small demographic percentage.
You know what? I'll be honest. I'm a personal accountability type of person. So I don't care if there are Jewish people that are running the entire industry. It still takes two to tango. You have to be a willing participant in the violent music creation itself. Even if somebody's paying you a lot of money, you still have to take the money and choose to do it. So I'm not going to deflect and say, oh, the Jews are making people do it. I'm just saying that, yeah, they're smart enough to profit from it, your own demise, and they might pay to promote it, but you still have to consent to it and say yes. They are not puppet masters, then and you're not controlled by Neuralink as of right now. I would hope if you're a rap artist. So that's my point. I appreciate it, Arthur. Thank you. Yeah, because I believe in personal accountability and I don't believe in pushing things off on others. We're not going to say it's because of Jews. I just thought it was a weird coincidence that somebody asked me that question, and I was like, well, let me go ahead and just answer it, and then we'll I'll ask my co-host because he can look it up and give us the exact numbers. Everyone's thinking there are sides. It's all of them. It's all a team. They all take money from APAC and they're just following a script. Absolutely. And I don't think APAC should be should have to register as a foreign agent. They should not be able to operate over here working for Jewish interests, but not have to register as a foreign agent. That's not fair to the rest of us in the world. I just, like I said, I'm not a fan of double standards. But as far as the music industry is concerned, I'm not going to say it's the industry as a whole. I say the music industry promotes it. But if your child is not smart enough to know reality from fiction, if your child's going to think the music is reality and not anything more than fiction, if you really think Snoop Dogg and these other rappers are out here every night just shooting and killing everybody and getting away with it, if your kid is that slow and that dumb, send them back home. Send them home. They're going to die in America or they're going to end up in prison forever. I'm looking at these boys, man. I remember growing up with these dudes and, they come from good families, but they chose the Black culture. They chose the Black lifestyle. We all did. Probably one of the biggest mistakes we ever made, and you don't realize it until your life's over. So that's why we have these conversations. Again, I'm telling a story. This is just chapter 1. I will bring this topic up as we go, and I do appreciate you guys' input. Yeah, thank you, Daniel. And also, thank you also to Sandra. Like I said, I try to do sobering commentary. I talk about everything. I don't know if you guys been watching my other videos. You see my other thumbnails. Go take a look. Tell me if you agree with my stances and my points. I'm open to criticism. I really do appreciate you guys tuning in and listening and participating in these conversations that need to be had, because we're fighting a war at home, but it's not just a civil war, but we're fighting a war for the future so we can decide which way it's going to go. Right now, it's going into the gutter when it should be going to the sky. Not to the moon, but in an upward fashion. Just because, space is fake and all that bullshit in the sky. That's not there. We're not going to do imaginary stuff. We're talking about realistic stuff. So just a trajectory. Not like Musk where it goes up and comes right down. Not like that, but just straight up. I appreciate you guys tuning in and having these conversations. And I'll be back on live in about, let's see here. But why not speak something positive? Something because, the kids are listening. That's the thing. I agree. They should. Why make music about murder and shooting people and drug dealing? Why not make music that's positive? I agree.
Boy, ruin up where you niggas can't come. Shoot a smart mouth, cause my trigger finger will play. Who's politicking, niggas tripping what you say. Blood spade, gang banger, 20 block, chuck the A's.
Niggas talking out their neck.
I don't know why they don't. That's a good point. Be nice. I don't know why they don't speak anything positive. They know kids are listening and they still speak about murder, death. The reason is with this lifestyle comes prison, and with prison comes man sex. So this is also a part of the gay agenda as well. And also, like I said, the gay agenda is the depopulation agenda. So it's the prison to homosexuality to the grave pipeline. They convince you that black culture is cool as fuck, but people don't tell you about that black culture is gay. And once you get to prison for living through black culture, you're going to have to adopt a gay lifestyle, and it's going to change you. You know, even when you get out, you still did what you did when you were behind bars for all those years, you know, and that gay stuff is real. So I agree. I wish less kids were being turned into gays by going to prison early because of this music and this culture, but there's only so much I can do. These are not my personal kids. So I'll make videos and I'll make content and I'll speak out against it. And some people will agree and some don't, but a lot of people want gay kids. I mean, Gavin Newsom would hate this conversation. He wants to see more trans and gay kids. Do you? If you want to see more trans and gay kids, leave a comment. If you don't want to see more trans and gay kids, leave a comment. But just sitting there in silence and watching what other people say is not the answer. You're going to have to speak up because eventually this is going to be your kid. And you're going to have to help your kid decide which way they're going to want to go. And if you were scared to speak up now, what are you going to do later? I come from the Run DMC days. I used to listen to Public Enemy, who had a message. To me, it changed with NWA. Absolutely. The West Coast is what started pushing the violent gay culture, because the violence leads to prison, which leads to homosexuality. That's the pipeline. That's just how it goes. And that started on the West Coast. NWA was a West Coast thing. I remember there were positive, conscious rappers, and they were basically pushing a lot of anti-white rhetoric. Public Enemy, they were like Martin Luther King rappers. They blamed white people for all their problems, and they wanted white people to solve all their problems, which is a problem in itself. You're going to have to solve your own problems. But Martin Luther King started that trajectory for his community. And he even regretted it himself, but he passed away before he could course correct his own people. I don't know why so many people listen to just one guy. Why not just do your own thing? I don't know. I'm not easily influenced, I guess, you know? I mean, don't get me wrong. I used to watch CNN like everybody else. And there was two gay guys on there telling me what to think, Anderson Cooper and Don Lemon. I rejected that too eventually. I was just like, why am I listening to gays? I don't listen to gays when it comes to anything else. I wouldn't take any advice from gay people about anything. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like I said, a lot of that did start on the West Coast, and look at the results. The West Coast is destroyed. We don't have families. All we have is kids and broken homes. Nothing like Texas, nothing like the South or East Coast where people still get married. Nobody's getting married on the West Coast. The culture out here just doesn't allow for it. That's why a lot of us move, because we want to be Americans. We don't want to be Californians anymore. Because if you're a Californian, you can't be an American. The culture won't allow it. Do me a favor. Let me know your thoughts. If you want to see more gay kids, let me know. If you want to see more non-gay kids, straight kids, let me know. We'll talk about it. We'll have these conversations because no one else wants to have them. Like and subscribe, share the video, like the page. That way you can get more updates when I go live. Thank you for the donations. Remember, America first, America only.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.